Okay, what do I play first? Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here or Black Sabbath's Master of Reality? Hello, my good peeps. How are you? I'm in front of the wood panel wall because we are back in the 70s basement.
Far out.
I've wanted to make this video for a while since when I was turning this unfinished space into the 70s basement of my dreams, I needed a piece of furniture to put the record player on. I wanted to make something custom, but with everything else I had going on, I just didn't have time, so I didn't.
Lazy.
But now I do. I have a whole playlist of everything I did down here from start to finish, so I'll put a link to that in the description box if you want to check it out. But anyway, I put this little mid-century bedside table there, but it never really fits, so I'm making this custom record stand to take its place. I've already made a few pieces around our house, and I always keep my designs super simple because I'm not a master woodworker at all. So this is definitely something you can do yourself if you want to try it out. First thing I have to do is get all the wood, so come with me to do that, and then we will get to it.
How to with Brew City builds.
Let's go.
Okay, I got the goods. They either had 1x12s, which are too small, or 1x16s that are too big. So I'm gonna have to cut them down to 13 inches because that's the size I want for the record player. I don't have a table saw, so I'm gonna head over to my parents' house so I can rip these down to the size I need. Once that's done, I'm gonna cut the rest of the wood with a chop saw so I have all the pieces I need to make this little record stand. My dad offered to help me out with the table saw, so I took him up on it since I learned a lot of what I know from watching him build stuff as I was growing up. We cut all these boards down to 13 inches, and then I pulled out the chop saw to cut the top, bottom, sides, middle shelf, and partition pieces. Alright, the wood is cut. I needed a little coffee break, but now it's time to put this thing together. I started by putting the frame together with some corner clamps just to make sure that everything looked good. It did, so it was time to start building. I attached the bottom piece first with some wood glue and some 2-inch screws. I pre-drilled the holes so I wouldn't crack the wood. Since this piece isn't huge, I had to attach the small partition boards to the shelf before I installed it. Otherwise my drill wouldn't fit in there to get those screws in. So I measured out 6 inches and struck a line because that's where I'd be attaching the board. Same thing with the pre-drill, the wood glue, and the 2-inch screws. I also pre-sanded these pieces because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get my sander in there once it was put together. I used 180 grit discs first and then went back in with 220 discs to make it nice and smooth. Then I just did the same thing on the other side. The corner clamps really help hold it together if you don't have a buddy to help you out. Then I attached the top piece, put 3 screws on each side, and then it was installing that shelf. I made sure all the dimensions were even and then I attached those the same way I did everything else. Okay, it's put together and I'm back home, so now all I have to do is fill those holes that I made for the screws with some wood filler and then I can sand her down. I went all around filling all those holes with a small putty knife. I saw that they had a pigmented putty and I wanted to try it, so I got the one in the color walnut. It's a close match to the stain I was using, so I wanted to see if it would blend those out a little better. I gave that a day to cure and then I went in on all the sanding. Again, I started with 180 discs and then finished with 220 grit. I also had to sand these little parts by hand because I didn't pre-sand those sides. If I was to do this again, I would probably just sand every piece before I put it together, but now I know. Then I measured and cut those 1/4-inch plywood backboard pieces so that I could sand those as well. From there, I went in with the pre-stain. I apply this with a foam brush and leave it on for 20 minutes, just to even out the porosity so it takes the stain better and isn't blotchy. After it absorbs, you just wipe off any excess and then it's ready to go. I use the stain color special walnut that I've used on all the other pieces I've made in the house. I applied it to the whole thing with a new foam brush. I left it on for about a half an hour so that it would get pretty dark and deep, and then I wiped any excess off with a rag. From there I did the same process of pre-stain and stain for the backer board and the legs. The stain is dry, so I'm going to get a coat of poly on there and finish this thing off. There's a ton of brands to choose from, but I've worked with this one a bunch and it's always done me right. I started by giving it a really good stir. From there I went in with a clean foam brush and applied a thin coat. The reason I like this poly so much is that if I do a really good sand, I generally don't have to do a second coat. In the past, I've had to sand it down and do a second coat with other brands, but with this one, it's been pretty good. From there, I did a coat on the backer board and a coat on those cute little legs. I gave it a good 24 hours to dry, and then I installed the backing pieces with some 1.25" finishing nails. I put that painter's tape on there so I knew exactly where to nail in the boards on the other side. Then I did a final coat of poly on that side I didn't do yet once it was all nailed in. While that back part was drying, I installed the legs. I pre-drilled those holes for the screws that secure those down. Then it was just screwing in the legs, super easy. I had to make a hole for the speaker wires, so I measured out the center and made a hole with a 1-inch drill bit. And there we go, the record stand is done. All right, it's finished.
How very.
I just pulled a bunch of records from the living room, so now I just have to put everything in its spot. Those 2 speakers ended up fitting perfectly in that bottom shelf. And the records literally fit just like a glove. I made sure to have a place for some coffee table books and that cute little pottery from Mexico City. And finally, the record player, this lava lamp that I've had for over a decade, and this vintage glass piece for the top. And there it is, fully finished. Super into it. I don't know why the lava lamp looks purple on camera. It's literally black lava. So weird. Either way, I'm so glad that the record stand is finally built. It fits the space so much better, and now we actually have storage for records down here. That's the fun thing about making something custom. You get exactly what you want while saving a bit of cash. I spent around $200 on this, which is pretty good. I'm just hoping that this video inspires you to make something yourself. If you have any questions about anything, hit me up in the comments. Or if you want to let me know what you think, feel free to tell me there as well. I would love if you like this video, and if you want to subscribe, you can totally do that too. Now that I got a couple small projects out of the way, I think I'm ready to go big. I'm planning something in the kitchen that I've never done before, so that'll be next. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you're still here, I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon. Bye. If anyone is wondering, I went with Pink Floyd.